Okay, we are recording. So I apologize to anyone who I said that I was going to stream it into our group, but I'm going to be popping this in the group. You'll be able to see it there, just not seeing a share option here. So just going to go with the ish, and life throws little struggles your way. But I am super excited to interview my friend Robin here. I didn't really know up until 2 weeks ago how knowledgeable he was on the whole intermittent fasting subject. And as soon as I heard him speak, I was like, I need to interview this guy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of my background in intermittent fasting for those that are new to this group and those that just haven't heard my story here. Is 2 years ago to the day actually that I heard Robin talk about intermittent fasting was my anniversary of doing intermittent fasting. I was introduced it probably 9 months previous to that. My husband actually had started intermittent fasting. He had started keto diet. He was using all the hacks, which we'll get into, to get on a healthier journey. And the side effect was he had a weight loss along this health journey. But that wasn't his original intention. It was to solve some health problems he was having. I thought he was crazy. I was like, at this point, I'd already had my own weight loss story, and I didn't feel I needed to do this. But just seeing how much he was benefiting from it just got me to dive into the subject like hard. And then I committed to it. So I've been doing intermittent fasting for 2 years now. I absolutely love it. And I am so excited for you guys to hear Robin's story too, because it is fascinating how much this lifestyle can benefit people, not just for weight loss, but overall health benefits. So Robin, I would love for you to share with everyone here just your little journey that you've had with this.
Outstanding. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. You know, my wife and I just absolutely adore being able to help people, because there's one thing that we find that's a continual basis amongst everybody is everybody's searching for more. Everybody, no matter what that is. And we have the ability of attaining more if we feel better. No, it doesn't matter. If we feel better, we feel we can do more. So that's why I just love being able to do this, because you never know whose ears you're gonna touch by just chatting about anything. And the best way to be able to do that is to be vulnerable. So I'm gonna share a little bit about me and how it is that I ended up where I am here right now in this seat being interviewed by you. So thank you, first of all, for having me on. My story actually is a little bit different than most. I actually fell into the world of intermittent fasting because in the world of getting ketones to my brain was because of depression. I was, throughout my teens, I literally battled it. It was an everyday adventure to be able to get up and push through the sludge of what the drone felt like every single day. And all the time. And I had severe ups and severe downs, and I did everything everybody told me to do constantly, like diligently, everything. And I was always searching for something better. Like, this isn't working. Let's try this. Or they said, let's try this and let's try this. To the point where I remember being in a therapy session with students. And like the therapist said to me, and it was at the hospital, a therapist said to me, would it be all right with you if I had some students come in and sit in while we have your session? And I was like, embarrassing. But I said, okay, sure, no matter what. And I can't even remember the type of therapist it was, but I just remember being at my wit's end. And he eventually just said to me, Robin, I think the only thing that we can do for you would be electric shock therapy. I really think that's the only thing we can do, because it's like the next logical step. We've done everything. And that's where my life pivoted, where I started taking more ownership. Now, there was some serious time between intermittent fasting and that moment in my life, but it's where all of a sudden the switch flipped and different changes started happening. I eventually ended up gaining 75 pounds, not knowing. I found out that I had put on all this weight because my wife had a birthday party for me. And I remember looking at the photos afterwards and not recognizing who that person was in the photo. I had a different perception of what I looked like visually until I saw a representation in a photo, and I was in shock,
Oh my God.
absolute shock.
So relate. So relate.
Couldn't totally right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, the whole story of like you put a frog in cold water, turn it on simmer, it acclimates. It acclimates and acclimates to the point of it no longer can disassociate from what it once was. It is where it is now, and it just keeps moving forward. And that's when I started, when I got to my just absolute next level of I'm done. And I opened up my computer and I started researching ways to actually heal the brain because nothing helped. I still was in the same place. Nothing had helped. I was still lethargic, no energy, couldn't exercise, had all this weight on me. I just felt like I was going like this on a rapid scale. And I started learning about intermittent fasting and gut health, and I started learning about brain health and true performance. When we primarily think about performance, we think about athletes, right? We think about being able to run super far, super fast, or lift heavy weights, but true performance is the brain, and true performance is also in the gut. And when we can get both of these things working together in harmony, that is true performance. When we
Oh,
have neurotransmitter.
I love that. I love how you just said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that became my absolute passion. It became, and so I started learning from a few different people about the quickest way, because I'm always about fast. Give me fast. I'm not into long diets, and no, not going to happen. I'm not into diets at all. I want results quick, and I'll do what needs to happen to attain those results quick. And that's when I started learning about intermittent fasting. And the concept of not eating terrified me because I loved to eat. And it terrifies most people, right? We have this crazy emotional connection to food. We're bombarded in marketing with purchasing food, like food, constantly eat. And we've been sold a ton of lies for years and years and years about food, right? The sugar debacle starting in the 50s and crazy. If you want to know more about the sugar world, look at Ansel Keys and that whole story. That he was head of food and nutrition, and the whole story about the studies that actually took place, which deemed it actually started with the president having a heart attack, and so he was head of nutrition and did this study around the world and deemed that fat was actually what caused all the problems. And because sugar contained no fat, every carbohydrates and sugars were everywhere. And the fact is it's super cheap, right? And so no matter how much education comes out these days, no matter how much education about fasting or eating high levels of fat and lowering your carbohydrate and sugar intake, it has changed nothing. The epidemic of insulin resistancy is going through the roof. And match that with pharmaceuticals, and we live in the best time in the world right now. We have the opportunity of living more years than we've ever in human civilization had the opportunity to live, yet we're living those years more sick.
Oh, yeah.
More and more, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing about intermittent fasting and the studies show is that it gives you the power back, the opportunity of attaining those years if you're granted them, to be able to live them optimally, to thrive versus average and normal. So I started intermittent fasting. The hardest part for me was the hunger, right? Because when I started getting hungry, I started playing the tapes in my mind of what it is that I had been told for years, until I remember reading, somebody said to me, and this was the key factor that I always share with everybody: fall in love with being hungry. Because when you get those gurgles, that's when the magic is starting. And as you stay focused on allowing those gurgles to happen, that hunger, which normally isn't hunger, it only lasts a short period of time. And then you reset the body's memory. If you wake up at 9 a.m., let's say, and you normally eat at 9 a.m., well, let's just say you normally eat at 9 a.m. Your body's based on memory. So if you at about 8:45, you start creating saliva, you start getting the gastrointestinal juices happening, acid starts being created in the stomach in preparation for the memory that it knows to come. So then if you all of a sudden start intermittent fasting, you don't eat at 9, your body goes, well, wait a minute, I prepared for food, right? And then, so all it is, intermittent fasting is simply just shortening the window by which you eat so that you reset the programs of the body. So all the hunger stuff that everyone focuses on goes away.
Oh, I love that you said that. Because that was the biggest struggle for me. So I
Yeah.
actually have some questions here about
Oh, yeah.
people who are just learning about this lifestyle, and
Yeah.
maybe looking at trying it out. In my intermittent fasting group that I do have, I do run a 7-day challenge for people that are new to
Oh,
this.
cool.
I want to get
Yeah.
a try it because I found when I was doing it 2 years ago, now the people I had around me at the time, like, thought that was a crazy notion that I was even going to limit the amount of
Yeah.
hours that I was eating. Like, what are you talking about? That's crazy.
Yeah.
And after 4 days of doing it, I actually stopped the first time I tried it because of the hunger. Like, I just thought,
Yeah.
this isn't right. I've been told my whole life, if you're hungry, you should eat.
Yeah.
But in reality, it just lasts a short window of time. And there is some things you can kind of do to get that to go away.
For
Um,
sure.
so I know that I personally, with doing the research and diving into this subject really hard, learned that, throwing some pink Himalayan salts in there, getting some minerals in your water for sure has
Hmm.
helped me overcome those little hanger pains
Hmm.
that you have. So do you have any things that you could recommend to people who are first trying this out when they are feeling those little hunger pains and thinking that they should eat or they have to eat, how they can get past that?
Yeah. First and foremost is don't be a hero, right? Because how often have you tried something that you were excited about because of a desired end result and gone for it and given up, right? Or really put all your weight into it and then due to whatever circumstances you quit. Very few times. It's why people try diets and different lifestyles and they've gone from one to the one to the one. It doesn't mean that that first one wouldn't have worked. It's primarily because people quit and they go back and revert to the old lifestyle again, and then they try the next one, and it's a very emotional roller coaster, which is why so often people say, you know what, I've tried so many different things, I think I'm just going to be like this forever. So what I would recommend for everybody is to understand this. We're not suggesting you stop eating. Not at all. We're not even suggesting you change the food that you love. That may be whatever for you. We're not suggesting that at all. All we're suggesting is that we just shorten the window by which you consume them. Shorten the window and the frequency. That's it. So if you are like, absolutely like, no way, I'm eating pizza and Alfredo pasta every day, all the time, great. Don't worry about it. Let's just shorten the window by which you do that. So if you traditionally eat at breakfast and snack and lunch and snack and dinner and snack and then before bed snack, then all we want to do is let's just limit that, the window by which it. And that helps people psychologically be able to make the shift. And that shift can literally be as simple as, instead of eating breakfast at 9, push it to 9:30. Just
Yeah.
small micro movements over extended periods of time make us look at who we are and not recognize the person we once were. It's small micro movements that nobody's going to clap at you about. No one's going to congratulate you about. No one, the ribbons aren't going to fall and the balloons aren't going to be released. That's what you want to focus on. Are those micro movements nobody's going to notice? And that is going to offer you that super solid foundation so that you can build upon it and it's easy. If you're crazy like me, you just go cold turkey. Like, that's just me. That's my mindset. Or maybe you're somewhere in the middle. But whatever feels easy for you, that's what I would recommend.
Oh, I love that advice. And coming from a woman who's like been on the diet roller coaster like her whole adult life, like up and
Yeah,
down, which
yeah.
a lot of women are, and just absolutely scale obsessed. I actually don't, we
Yeah,
just moved a year ago, and I actually wouldn't allow a scale into our new house because that's how obsessed I was. And it was just a mind game, right? Every time I
right.
went on there. So, yeah, and I think people need to find what's good for them. Baby steps over time, absolutely. That's kind of how
Yeah,
I went ish. I am for sure not the same person I was 4 years ago when I started my health journey. And like yourself,
yeah,
I I was faced with going to a doctor's office and them telling me, okay, here's a list of meds we're going to put you on for the rest of your life.
right.
And I just kind of opened my eyes and went, no, that this is not going to be my story, because there's got to be a better way,
Yeah,
um, than putting a band-aid on the problem. Because I knew
yeah,
the problem wasn't that I had all these chronic illnesses. The problem was how I got there, and how I
totally.
could go back and fix that.
Yeah,
Just
totally.
through what I ate and when I ate,
Yeah,
and some supplements that I took. But anyhow, I love that. I have a few other questions here for you that I want to get into.
yeah, sure.
So for you yourself, like, and he said that you went cold turkey, went hard. My husband did the
Yeah,
same thing too.
yeah,
Honestly, his weight loss journey, like he lost 70 pounds and corrected all his health problems in 6 months, where it took me
yeah,
like, well over a year to even come close to
sure.
where he was. But he was
Yeah.
like, he went all in and had the willpower. Once he puts his mind to something, he really dives in. But for the majority of people, they don't necessarily have that. So kind of what window do you usually recommend for people to get started at who've never tried this before?
Okay, so there are two ways, and the first one I mentioned, and that's, you can change nothing about the food that you're eating, and all we're going to do is just slowly start to limit the food by which we're eating within a window. That one works really easy for people, but if people are really wanting quicker benefits, the idea is that we want to get to 2 meals a day, no snacking. That's a really great scenario. That's the end result, right? So that's the goal. And so then we want to come back to the present and say, okay, well, now how do I attain that desired end result? Even if that feels scary or goes against everything that I know. And of course, everybody's lifestyle is a little different, right? Some people are performers, like athletic, and they're on some form of routine. And so we won't get into any of that, but we'll just talk for the average individual who is pursuing better in life. We want to really go to 2 meals a day, lunch and dinner. Breakfast is not the most important meal of the day for those who aren't pushing their bodies to extreme limits. I would either push the window by which your first meal happens or get rid of snacking. Snacking is brutal. So often in snacking, we consume more calories than we actually do in our meal. And I include snacking as sugary drinks. I include snacking as in creamers in your coffee and in your tea. I include snacking as in just, that little bit of something as you're cooking for somebody else. We want to get to 2 meals a day. Snacking, yeah, that if all you did for most people is get rid of the additives you're adding to your drinks or sugary drinks, you will lose weight.
Oh,
You
I
will
agree.
perform better.
Yeah.
If on top of that you got rid of your snacks, oh my gosh, you are literally on the road to like serious success.
Right. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm glad that you mentioned coffee. So I'm going to go over some of the biggest questions that people have for me,
yeah,
when they're starting intermittent fasting. And one of the biggest things is, what can I put in my coffee? Can I still drink coffee in the morning? I know, like,
right.
traditionally they say intermittent fasting, in your fasting period, you can have coffee, tea, water. And then there's kind
Hmm.
of the array of, the dirty fasting and what you are allowed in that fasting period, which is kind of a
Right.
gray area.
Yeah.
But what would you suggest that people do, especially those that are used to putting additives in their coffee?
Right. Okay. So let's go like super hard. Okay.
Okay.
Like traditional fasting is just water. That's it.
Okay.
Water, it will get you the greatest result in the shortest period of time. Coffee increases metabolism, but does not create a metabolic response. So think of it as like the cog starting to work and your body working. So doesn't happen with coffee and doesn't happen with tea as long as they're black or green tea. So those are three really, really super great options for you. No other teas or coffees, okay?
Okay.
As soon as you start, you know, as soon as you start adding things like MCT oils and fats, that's when we go into the world of keto, right? Creating ketones, because they do break a fast. They create a metabolic response in the body. So they do break a traditional fast. So it really this is why there's so much confusion.
Yes.
If your result is I want to lose the most amount of weight, or I want to detox my body as quickly as absolutely possible, water. If you're like, I want some creature comforts, I want to be able to still enjoy my morning and, you know, my afternoon, black coffee, black tea, green tea. If you're wanting to get some nutrients into your body, but you're wanting to follow more of a keto lifestyle that creates a little bit of a metabolic response, then sure, add MCT oils and a dash, and I mean a dash of whipping cream. That'll be able, and organic, of course, you have to go that way.
Right.
Because when we consume high levels of concentrated fats, like from whipping cream or from MCT oils, they actually bypass the digestive system, go straight to the liver and create ketones, which ketones are an alternative fuel source for the brain. So that's why they're good, but they do create a response in the body.
So are you talking about, when you're saying metabolic response, are you talking about insulin response? Just want to
Yeah, so
clarify.
not an insulin response. And there's a lot of misunderstanding. Do you want me to talk about insulin a little bit?
Oh yeah, I do have it on my list here to get into in just a little bit though, but I
Okay,
just want to
sure.
clarify when you're talking about metabolic response, if you were meaning insulin response, but
No, not insulin response.
okay.
No.
Okay. So I have recommended to a lot of people who have just started getting into this lifestyle, you know, to use, like, in all transparency, we're in the same company, and we know some products that help people. And so I have recommended, you know, our MCT creamer for people to kind of get used to that. And for sure, up until actually, let's say 3 months ago, I was actually putting it in my coffee every morning because it helped me get to the spot. And January 4th, I kind of took it to a new level and really started, mostly with my husband's persuasion, because he was like, you still aren't really doing what I'm doing here, girl. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it to a new level. Get the additives in my coffee and take it to a new level. And I have seen some progress with that. But for sure, I think baby steps, like you said, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And everyone has a different reason why they want to do intermittent fasting, which I kind of want to get into a little bit about the benefits of intermittent fasting, and why people do it. Because I personally, in doing it, yes, to maintain some of my weight loss that I've had, and to take it to another level, but also for all the health benefits and the cognitive benefits, the mind benefits, the gut health benefits. I suffered from being iron deficient anemia since I was 16 till I was 47.
Yeah.
I was deficient in B12 and in iron. And that was all to do with my gut health, and just not being educated enough to realize that, you know, taking iron supplements, which, oh my God, I've spent a fortune taking iron supplements for most of my adult life that probably 100% weren't being absorbed properly, right? It's mind-blowing when you think about it, and how these little hacks can really help. So now, after doing intermittent fasting and changing some lifestyle stuff in the last 4 years, for the first time in my adult life, I'm actually not deficient in iron, and I don't take an iron supplement.
Fasting. Yeah, that's awesome.
Fascinating.
Look at you. You're crushing it.
Yeah. Diving and getting some educated on some of these things to solve some health problems that I've suffered from, in which a lot of people suffer from. So I love sharing this with other people, because these little hacks and little things that I've learned, and like you have learned, absolutely help people, and they're not talked about. They're not talked about.
So just one quick little thing to that is that toxins leach nutrients. So when you help the body, you know, there's something you know. So did you want to start going into the benefits of fasting?
Yeah,
because there's like the number one thing that is just like this. It may sound a little complicated, but it's just so important to be able to have the opportunity, if the opportunity is given to you, to live really long. Our body has this built-in recycling system. In 2016, there was a Japanese scientist that came across he finished a 35-year study on something called autophagy. Autophagy just means to eat thyself. If you've ever had an issue with like your cell phone or your computer and you just can't resolve it, and when you turn it off and turn it back on magically, it somehow has righted itself. That's because there's built-in programs that are designed to search, fix problems so that you get to have your operating system running at peak performance. They're in there, but the only way they get activated is if you reset the system. Our bodies are exactly the same way. Autophagy, so our built-in recycling system, the cans and bottles and glass you put on the curb to be taken away, only happens if you allow for the switch to flip, and that only happens when you stop digestion. It's the only way. Traditionally, we have that happen because our insulin levels were always really, really low. For like thousands of years, people were constantly in a state of autophagy because insulin wasn't high. When insulin is high, then autophagy is off, or on at all insulin, autophagy is off. So here's what autophagy is going to go in and eat up viruses, eat up bacteria. It's going to eat up fungus that lives in your body. But it's also going to do one thing that doesn't get talked a lot about, and that's apoptosis. Apoptosis is cell death. When we have trillions of dead cells in our body that just back up and back up and back up, causing an abundance of inflammation in the body, causing radical health issues because we have dead cells living in us. Getting into a state of autophagy actually helps get all of that, turns it in, puts it in our muscles, and our muscles burn it off, which is why it's so important during fasting states to be exercising, to be moving, to be burning all those toxins and everything out of your body through your pores and out your muscles as energy. But here's the really cool thing is, as we're getting rid of cells, right, we're cleaning the body so it can run efficiently. Like if you have a plant and a plant has a bunch of dead leaves on it and you keep watering the plant, nutrients are still going to go to areas it's not supposed to go. So getting into autophagy is like pulling off all those dead leaves so that it can go to where it needs to go so that the energy can be focused. But there's also another aspect that happens, and that is telomeres. Have you ever heard of telomeres?
I haven't.
So on the ends of our DNA are like little antennas.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is as they shorten, we age. Okay, so that's why there's like about 10 years ago, it was crazy. Everyone was like telomere support, lengthening telomeres. It was the fountain of youth. But and what happens is that as a cell duplicates itself, it's duplicating based on the length of the telomere. So let's say you're 50, right? You're 50 years of age. Your telomeres are shorter than if you were 10, right? This is why we age, because our telomeres shorten. But if we want to actually radically slow down the aging process, we don't want to be duplicating cells that have short telomeres. Does that make sense? So we're duplicating age, right? So what happens is by getting rid of dead cells or underperforming cells or cells that just aren't doing what they're supposed to do, or they're disease-based cells, then fasting helps get rid of all that stuff so that we have the ability of getting into autophagy, which is scientifically proven to create healthy cells with longer telomeres. So the fountain of youth on them.
Ooh, boom.
And that's really where you have this like beautiful body that you live in that is specifically designed to be, it's designed to be optimal and to be thriving if you allow it. And there's so many aspects that you can do. And that's why fasting is just so important, to be able to give yourself the opportunity to thrive. But remember, the thing is that you have to be consistent. This isn't something, it needs to become your lifestyle, just like, eating 3 meals a day became your lifestyle.
Right. Which leads me into a question that I actually had, because I know that some people, when you start talking intermittent fasting, they're like, Oh yeah, I do that. I do an extended fast once a month. So,
Yeah,
and I was like, I don't think that's the same benefits. Like, not saying that
right.
that's bad, but I don't think that's got the same benefit that's consistently doing fasting. What's your
True.
thought on that?
Well, it's kind of like going for a run once a month.
Right. Love it.
I exercised the other day. When was that? Like middle of last month. It was really great. I had a good time. I had a coffee in my hand and I was with a buddy, right? Like
Yeah,
I think it really depends on you, right? What are your
right.
goals and what are you willing to do to attain them? There is not one right path, but I always, it's like, is what you're doing giving you the results you're looking for? If
Right.
not, what are you going to do about it?
Switch it up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did have a question since you mentioned running.
Yeah.
So I am a runner as well, and I know you are a runner as well.
Yeah.
I kind of got into the whole running world with my wellness journey that I've been on. I absolutely love running, and I know it's a bit of a controversy with runners about whether you should be running while you're fasting. So
Mm,
I'll share with you, in the last year, every time I do a 10K run, it's after I've been fasting for 20 hours.
right.
And it's not hard. I've trained my body. Now, it's not
Hmm.
something that someone can just absolutely go out there and go for a run fasting for 20 hours and not feel like they're
Yeah.
dying. It's something
Yeah.
that I built up to, like, over a couple of years for sure.
Yeah.
But if someone would have told me that 3
Yeah.
years ago, that I could run
Yeah.
10Ks after fasting for 20 hours and feel 100% fine, I would have told them
Yeah.
that they were crazy, because we've just
Yeah.
been told that if you're going to run, you need the carbs. You need to be eating carbs before, you need to be eating carbs after, all the carbs if you're going to be a runner. As
Hmm.
well as people working out. Same thing with the weight training. I think people have been told and trained that, you need to have fuel in your body if you're going to do that. You need to have like a protein 30 minutes after
Right.
you work out. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, okay. So there's a difference between somebody who's striving for optimal, right? Striving for performance, using a nutraceutical to be able to make that happen, which I do, right? Like I do take things before I run that do not create an insulin response. But let me ask you this.
Yes.
If you could flood your body with the one hormone that's scientifically proven to be able to reverse aging, that you were born with, that helped, it is so powerful that it actually helped in the development of you within the womb and stayed with you through development, but then over periods of time started to go like this, which is why you start a big noticing why aging is happening. If you could get that back tenfold into your body, and I said, you have to exercise fasting, would you do it?
Yeah.
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 So there,
Yeah.
human growth hormone is a hormone that radically helps the body build muscle, stay healthy, directly linked to immune system, directly linked to cognition, brain performance, everything. Human growth hormone. There, you can take synthetic forms of it. The problem about synthetics is that your body just doesn't really recognize them.
Right.
Flashy marketing, all that stuff, but your body creates its own human growth hormone again when you exercise in a fasted state. So think about, and that increases performance. It's why bodybuilders actually consume synthetic forms of human growth hormone to be able to increase muscle mass. So running in a fasted state will do that for you. One, exercising in any form in a fasted state will do that for one. Two, anything under about 120 beats per minute while you're running burns fat. Anything above 120 beats per minute burns fat and sugar. So now that's why running is so great, because you're literally physically moving every single pound of your body forward. And that's why it creates a heart rate that's just so high. It's why it's one of the most, other than swimming, the most efficient forms of exercise for cardiovascular health. But the thing is that running in a fasted state allows you to be able to tap into every area of your body. If you have food in your stomach while you start running and your blood needs to go to your extremities, then you literally have just food sitting in your gut and you're burping and you got acid reflux. Too many
Awful.
times
Yeah.
I hear about that stuff. I've net Unless you're like some form of Olympian, then they do take supplementation and carbohydrates and sugars and stuff to refuel the cells. But I like to look at it like this: when you're running or forms of high intensity exercise, you give your body the opportunity of depleting the sugars in your muscles, so the tank starts to get lower, and then when you eat again, you refuel them up. One of the worst things, and this is all marketing, one of the worst things you can do is consume protein shakes. Unless you're like really wanting to build muscle and you're like 5,000 calories, 10,000 calories a day. But protein shakes primarily spike insulin levels. So then all of a sudden remember, we haven't got into it, but as soon
Yeah.
as you spike insulin levels, you're in fat storing mode. But you
Right.
want the opposite of that. So there's other forms of getting protein into your body.
All right. So I think the next logical thing to dive into here is like what actually breaks your fast. So I know you talked about some supplements that you use that don't break your fast. And I know you've
Yeah.
talked about, because I've heard you speak before, about a product that we have called Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it too. My husband loves it. Yeah, it's a staple in our household now. And I was always wasn't quite sure about the alcohol sugar that is in it and
Yeah.
how that affects the insulin response, because there is so many sweeteners that will stimulate that insulin response. So why do you think that this product doesn't do that, and why you love it and take it during your fasting?
It's because it doesn't get digested. It goes directly into the small intestine. And so the only thing about specific types of sugar alcohols, which come
Yeah.
from fermented fruits, is that they don't have an insulin response, but they go directly to the small intestine, which for people who aren't used to taking them can cause diarrhea. So that's why I always recommend that start slow and things like that.
Right.
It won't break your fast because it's not an insulin, it doesn't create insulin. So you're good
Okay.
to go with that. The two primary reasons why I love, well, there's three, but the two primary reasons why I love Go is that it is, in what I believe, the perfect way to start your day. Every single morning, well, we set up ourselves for success the night before so that when we wake up in the morning, because we're emotional beasts, we just go to whatever's easier. So if we can set ourselves up for success the night before, then whatever's easier is already there. So we have our water sitting there from the night before at room temperature, our Go right there.
Yeah.
And then so it's literally open it up, pour in the Go, shake it, take our supplements and our Go right then. So it's an incredible source of minerals and hydration to the body. So that's one reason. The second thing that's really powerful about Go is it's all about mitochondrial function. So in every single one of your 100 trillion cells, you have an engine. So think of your cell like a car. The mitochondria is the engine of that car. You have to give the right fuel to the engine, right? So if you've ever pulled up to a gas station, if you've ever driven a car, you have a multitude of different grades of gasoline that you can pick. You have the opportunity to pick the least investment or the highest investment. But if your car has always been designed to run with, let's say, the 94 grade, but all you've ever done is put in the 87, your body will down regulate its performance to deal with the 87 grade. But as soon as you start getting the right fuel system into the engine, it can take some time to rebuffer itself back up, but then all of a sudden, everything starts happening much, much better. Cleaner energy, higher cognition, better digestion. It takes energy to run everything. Thinking takes energy. Writing stuff down, exercising, digestion, having a conversation. All this takes energy from your mitochondria. The Go is giving every single cell in your body the opportunity to perform at its highest levels.
I love that. Love it. So yeah, I'm glad, because that is a question that a lot of people have about if they
Oh
can
yeah.
take it while they're fasting and stuff.
So I take two, we always
Yeah.
recommend take 2 a day for 10 days, zero judgments. Just 2 a day for 10 days.
So do you also drink coffee throughout the day too in your fasting state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It drives my wife nuts how long it takes me to drink a coffee, like forever. But I down a go right away.
First.
First thing in the morning, no matter, I'm getting my water, I'm getting my minerals, I'm priming the pump right away before I do anything.
Okay. Okay. I think you answered all the questions around that.
Oh,
So I
goody.
want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I know we're
Yeah,
probably doing this talk a little longer than I thought, but I just want to keep going because there's some other questions I have, and
sure.
I love talking about
Yeah.
this subject. So yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about whatever your personal goals are, and we went over some of the benefits of intermittent fasting and stuff. So I know I'm just going to talk a little bit for me. Like, it was about getting more energy in my life, being
Mhm.
able to stay younger, feel my best,
Yeah.
and that's honestly how I feel when I'm consistent with my intermittent fasting. Being more youthful, looking more youthful. I know that I heard you talk a little bit about when I heard you talk 2 weeks ago about just how much autophagy and everything helps with removing dead skin cells, but it also helps. So I know a lot of people that are in my group here are doing this for weight loss. But what
Mhm.
comes with weight loss lots of times, and I know that was one of my fears, is the loose skin. And I see
Yeah.
so many people who've lost weight from other methods and other diets and things like that, end up, especially when
Yeah.
they've lost a large amount of weight, with all this loose skin and the skin surgeries I've seen people have to do and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It just breaks my heart
Yeah.
because in my journey, over the last 4 years, I was able to lose 90 pounds.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
didn't do it all with intermittent fasting, but I did intermittent fasting 2 years into
Mhm.
it. And I have like zero loose skin almost on my body now. It's incredible. Where
Yeah.
I've seen other people have so much. So talk
Yeah.
a little bit about that, if you would, because I heard you speak about that.
Yeah, that plays a role in autophagy, getting rid of what is not needed on the body. And excess skin is just unused protein. So when we get into, and of course, the process by which if we have a lot of loose skin, we've lost a lot of weight and fat, because big difference between weight and fat.
Yeah.
When we've lost a lot of that and we have loose skin, right? Just excess protein, we need to be able to have the body cannibalize it. It needs to be able to eat it. The only way to make that happen is by getting into states of autophagy. Your body gets into its own recycling system. Here's the thing to remember. Your body was specifically designed to be optimal. It's your practices that are not allowing for that to happen. But it is like a plant that you pave over with asphalt. It is specifically designed to get to the sun. It will do whatever it needs to do to be able to thrive until it can no longer. The body is exactly the same way. Give it the opportunity and it will thrive for you. And you can help it out along the way and you can really help, but
Mhm.
give it the opportunity to thrive. And autophagy and fasting, all these are giving it so that you can, your body, if you don't take care of it, where are you going to live? Because you're
Right.
not your body. Your body is here as a vessel for you to be able to experience all the beauty that we have in life.
Love it. So are you okay with talking about some of the supplements that I know both of us kind of promote and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
have quite a few questions from some customers that I have,
Sure.
some people in the group,
Of course.
about some of the things and what they can take and when they can't take them and stuff. So I
Right.
know I'm a big lover of our collagen. Love
Right.
our
Yeah.
collagen that
Yeah.
we have. My two favorite that I take are the Pure, which I
Yep.
take in a fasting state, and the Sport,
Yeah.
which I take in my eating window,
Right.
especially
Yeah.
after I eat. After a run or anything, I love taking the Sport because it really helps with that muscle recovery too.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about collagen and taking that in the fasting state?
Yeah, so first of all, the quick little thing about what we have here as a liquid biocell is just it's not your traditional collagen. Quick recap.
Yeah.
Collagen is about 90% of our body. If you didn't have collagen in you, the structure, integrity of your body, you'd be a blob on the floor, right? and how it's been for years and years. The traditional way of getting an abundance of collagen back into your body is by consuming the end result of what collagen is made from: ligaments, tendons, skin, hair. You consume that.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is your body just doesn't recognize it as bioidentical, and it doesn't really know what to do with it. It can utilize some of it, but most of it is just wasted. What we have here with liquid biocell is it's this magic little molecule that goes to where it needs to go to give you rapid results in much, much shorter periods of time that your body recognizes and utilizes. So there's the 4 different biocells. The first one that came out was the Life, which has such a concentration of antioxidant properties in there that you can't find, at least I've never seen, in any other product on the planet. Per price point, you just can't. There's no way. But the thing is, the Life is just so great at doing what it's designed to do that there's a lot of people who are wanting to follow intermittent fasting and follow, keto-based lifestyles, and they can't take the Life during a fasted state. So the Pure, they took out all the antioxidant properties and gave a little bit of natural sugars that are in there, but it's on such a small portion that it doesn't create an insulin response. Because usually it's anything under 45 calories doesn't really create an insulin response. And so the Pure is a great option, but what I highly recommend is when you take that tablespoon, is you swish it around in your mouth for like 10 to 20 seconds, because underneath the tongue is your subcutaneous glands. It's the highest absorption rate of the whole entire body. So swish it around, get as much as you can possibly get in there. And it's also so good for your gums. Like oral health, collagen, oh my gosh, next level. And then swallow it. And whatever's left will be digested through your small intestines.
Yeah.
And then sport's awesome.
Yeah. I look about the gum health, because I'm going to tell you a little story.
Yeah.
I went to the dentist
Yeah.
a couple months ago, and probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, they were recommending, because of my sensitivities and some spots from brushing too aggressively, recessive gums. My dentist actually mentioned your gums aren't receding as much as they used to be. And I'm like,
wow. Yeah.
Pretty amazing. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I do think that that's played a factor in it for sure.
It plays a massive factor in it.
Yeah.
Here's the one thing I'll always say is that on sides of bottles, it always says recommended suggested dosage. Remember that suggested dosage is a suggested dosage. It's always the minimum all the time. I always, like to remind people that you can do more, can absolutely do more. I don't take 2 tablespoons a day. I take 5. So just know that the recommended suggested dosage is always the minimum.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to dive into our next collagen product that I know a few people in my group here take all the time, and I have a lot of customers that take this, and it's one of my favorites. It's our trim. So Spoon Club, though I do know that does break a fast. So yeah. So, and it has
just take it before your meal.
Okay. And I did hear you talk about, which is something that I didn't realize, that you can take it later in the day and it still has the same benefits.
Totally.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
I think we've been trained to think that you need to take it first thing in the morning, throughout the day. And I don't, and after hearing you talk about that, that's not really the case. And I know I have been taking it with my first meal. And I'll be honest, sometimes I'll take it first thing in the morning in my fasting state too, if I'm having a busy day and I know I'm not going to be around later and doing it, which I know is wrong, but I'm guilty of that.
I think the whole thing, I think, is just like the setup for success, right? People are so used to consuming food in the morning that taking the trim and your burn pills is setting you up for the day, but it's working for 24 hours in your body.
Okay.
So take it before your meal. Only if you're following a fasting routine. If you're not following a fasting routine and you have breakfast, have it in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. And you did mention the burn, and I know those do not break a fast. I take this in my fasting state all the time. When I'm taking that. One new product that we just had, this is the biggest question I have from people. I want to ask them what questions I should be asking you, is our new prebiotic. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's the first on the market pro, postbiotic. Super amazing benefits for gut health, overall health and wellness. Some people are having some challenges on when they should be taking it and what they should be taking it with. And some people aren't loving it, taking it straight up or taking it with us, shooting it down with some water. So when is the best time to take that? And what do you take it with?
Well, we always say, like, not all health products, not all nutraceuticals, not all being absolutely performing at your best is going to taste the way you think it should.
Right. Yeah.
Just take it. Like, it doesn't have to be any emotional roller coaster about just take it. You're not buying it because it tastes good. You're buying it for the end result.
Yeah.
I always like to have that one. And I just take it dry, and it doesn't break your fast. I take it twice a day. We all take it in the house twice a day. Start the day, take it. End of the day, take it. Like with food, you can, our daughter takes it and she has to have it with a glass of water. Perfect. Sarah loves taking it, like she puts it on her trim and she has it, as one of the times, right? It's awesome. Or you can, I'm not really one for putting it in shakes because I just want all of it. I don't want to miss any of it.
Okay.
But whatever gets it in you, do it. Once a day, awesome. I'm all about optimal. I go for twice a day. The science isn't based on twice a day. It's based on once a day, right? That maximum 900% in prebiotics in your intestine after just one scoop. So my logic just says, well, then maybe I get 1800%. I don't know, but I always like to just go over and beyond with what it is that I take.
Recommended. Okay, I think that answers that question. And I did hear that the butyrate in it actually helps with your energy and stuff like that. So it is good to take it first thing in the morning. And like you said, if you need to take more, what about splitting it up halfway through the day? I did have a question about that.
No, you want to do it. You want to take a whole serving because the science is based on a whole serving.
Right.
Populating that gut bacteria, that flora. It gets a little bit confusing for people about what's actually taking place. But I will say, of all the products that you're talking about right there, the number one, first and foremost, really should be Trebiotic. It needs to be the foundation of everything that you do. If your gut isn't in check, you're not absorbing. You're not absorbing that biocell that you're taking to its highest potential. You're not getting the maximum benefits of the biocell if your gut's not in check. So Trebiotic really needs to be the foundation of everything, and even if you're spending all your time going to the grocery store and buying healthy food, you're then finding healthy recipes and you're spending the time to cook it nutritionally for your family. But if your intestines aren't in check and the flora isn't correct, you're not absorbing all that hard work you're putting in to your body to change your life.
Love it.
Trebiotic, yeah.
Okay, we're coming up to like almost an hour here, but there's one last thing I really wanted to dive into because I loved when I heard you talk about it a couple of weeks ago, is the whole insulin response and the insulin hormone, and just go over that because you made it something so very complex, just simplified and just made it simple and where it can just make sense for people. Because I don't think people are educated enough about how the whole insulin cycle works. So I'd love for you to explain that.
Okay. I'll explain how the body's traditionally designed to work. Okay. The whole word breakfast comes from breaking a fast. Every single time so traditionally, this is how human beings lived. There was no high refined sugars and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates primarily came from root vegetables and green leafy greens, right? But we were very protein based people. And hunter-gathering there was hunting all day, and then you would eat at dinner. It was primarily humans lived one meal a day lifestyles. Then it would get an insulin response. The body would insulin, whenever we eat food, insulin is excreted as the key to unlock your cells and your tissues so that all that nutrients, the blood sugar, can be absorbed to where it needs to go so it can be utilized as fuel. It's got to get out of the bloodstream to be utilized as fuel, okay? when we, and then you would have an insulin response. During the night, the blood sugar levels would go down. You'd naturally get into a state of ketosis, which is getting into fat burn. And then you'd wake up in the morning and, as we now do, have breakfast, and you would break that routine. You'd become a sugar burner again. But you were designed to be a sugar burner and a fat burner every day. Okay. What's happening now with people, especially with weight gain, is we eat breakfast, okay? We get sugar into our blood and our insulin spikes so that the cells and the tissues can absorb it. And then we have a snack and it happens again. And then we have lunch and it happens again. Then we have a snack and it happens again. And then we have dinner and it happens again. And then we have another snack and it happens again. There's only so much room in your tissues and in your cells for blood sugar to go. If you're constantly continually eating and having insulin increase throughout the day, and insulin can't get rid of the blood sugar, it has to store it as fat. Fat is nothing more than just unused fuel. That's it. It's there. It starts to create subcutaneously. First off, it starts in your liver, okay? About 500 calories worth. And then it starts to create subcutaneously the belly fat, the muffin top. And then it starts to create visceral, which is organ fat. And then it starts to marbleize within the muscles. It has to constantly be going places. So the trick is with insulin resistancy, that's your body's inability to be able to use it. So traditionally what happens when people start to become pre-diabetic or insulin resistant, the traditional way is to take insulin, put more insulin into the body to try and force the blood sugar into the cells and into the tissues. But like I just said, insulin is a fat storing hormone. So now we're actually increasing the body's ability to store fat. We want to do the opposite, and that's where fasting comes in. So imagine with me here for a second, you had dinner, whatever you wanted, and your blood sugar levels stay super high. So you're in fat storing mode for a long period of time. But then at, let's say, 2 a.m, your blood sugar levels drop, you normalize, and then you wake up in the morning with no insulin and you skip breakfast, no fat storing hormone. And then you skip a snack, no fat storing hormone. And then let's say you have lunch, that's your first meal, insulin goes up. But then you skip your snack after lunch, no fat storing hormone. But then you have a really healthy, sensible dinner, another spike, and then you don't have a snack after. So where traditionally people have 5 to 7 insulin spikes every day, you limited yourself to 2, which is giving you the opportunity of regulating the sugar levels in your blood to allow yourself to get into a fat burning mode versus a fat storing mode.
I love it. It just makes it sound so simple. It just makes total sense. And I just don't think the average person out there just has ever heard that before. So once you hear that for the first time, it's like mind blowing. Like it just makes so much sense. So for lastly, I just wanted to maybe reference a few things that people that we've followed and stuff, just so people know, like, I always like to reference things like, I don't just make this stuff up when I'm giving people advice on stuff. I have followed a lot of people. I'm probably some of the similar ones that you have. So Dr. Jason Fung is amazing. I've learned so much from reading his books, listening to his YouTube channel, stuff that he talks about. I know you did reference one of his books when you talked a couple weeks ago when I heard you speak. So
the obesity code.
Yeah.
Just I recommend reading because it empowers you.
Right.
Read a book, right? If you don't have time to read, which so many of us are on the go all the time, get the audiobook.
Audiobooks. Yeah. I just dived into this one 2 days ago, and it's by Dave Asprey.
Asprey?
Yeah. I don't know. It just came out. So, but this is another one that it's blowing my mind on some of the things that he's talking about in there too. I love diving into things and following people who've done this. The person who got myself and firstly my husband on this whole journey, and now like so many people that are friends with us and family and stuff that have actually started listening to what we're talking about after they're seeing the incredible results we've had, was Dr. Rhonda Patrick. So she's
Mhm.
does some amazing work. And my husband was listening to her podcast for a while before he started doing this, and just some of the stuff just totally makes sense. So just wanted to say to everyone, like, we don't make this stuff up. We've actually done the work. We've read the stuff. We've done the research on it. So
Right.
want to put that disclaimer on there. And yeah,
Do you
is
hear
there
that
any,
music?
huh?
Do you hear that music?
I
I
do.
hear music. It actually is a perfect ending music. So I don't know if I'm just hearing it, but it sounds great.
Awesome. I can't hear it on my end, but
Perfect.
awesome.
Oh, it went away. That's crazy.
Oh, well,
Oh,
I
no,
would
it's
like to
back.
thank you so much for coming on here and chatting with me this morning. I was so
Yeah.
looking forward to doing this. From the moment that I heard you speak about this, I'm like, I need to talk to this guy. And
Oh,
I can't believe we didn't talk about any of this before this. Or, you know,
yeah,
you're gonna have to give Sarah heck for not mentioning to me how much that you
I
know about.
will. Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, because we just love being able to connect with as many people as we possibly can. And thank you for offering this medium to be able to do it. And if you ever want to have me back on, and or throw me into your group and we can have a chat or do a little
Yeah,
challenge or something, yeah, let's do it.
yeah, I would love to do stuff with you in the future for sure and
Yeah,
collaborate. Okay,
amazing.
awesome. You have a great day,
Okay.
Rob. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.